I was scheduled to appear on Blog Talk Radio on February 27th to discuss my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, the ebook. Unfortunately, because I could not get access to a phone due to my long term unemployment, I was forced to cancel the show. So I am making a video to discuss the points that I wanted to discuss on the Blog Talk Radio show. Now, the nonfiction book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, come out of a blog I wrote in 2012 called Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And in that blog, I listed the numerous reasons pertaining to black women's character that why many black women are single. The blog, when I published it back in 2012, was one of my most popular blogs with over 20,000 hits over the last 2 years and counting. It's still very popular. It's still being linked to by various people on various message boards. It's still being shared all over social media. I had one individual try to make a YouTube video trying to, you know, attack it, and it was one of the most controversial blogs I ever wrote and one of the most popular. I mean, I even got attacked by my members of my own family for presenting the points that I made in that blog. And I wrote several other blogs, about the state of why so many black women are single. Um, and those blogs were also popular. The comment section, there was a lot of ad hominem attacks, a lot of shaming tactics, a lot of stuff going back and forth, but no one could ever, you know, refute any of the arguments. And the greatest irony of it was when people tried to attack me on the Why 70% of Black Women blog. Um, what would happen was the irony was they would prove all the points that I made in the blog to be true. And all of the things that I wrote in the Why 70, the irony, that was the greatest irony of all, because we had black men, we had black women coming to the blog. A lot of black women came to the blog, comment section, writing statements, trying to attack me, and they call it ad hominem attacks and shaming tactics. And I just got tired of going back and forth with people. And I said, you know what, enough is enough, because I wrote several articles. I wrote another one saying why black women will be single for the rest of their lives. And, another one where a lot of people were attacking me. And I mean, a lot of people, some women were so scared of me that they went to their own websites. A lot of these women had stopped writing blogs, and they decided they wanted to write blogs. I mean, I had one woman trying to personally attack my business and, making all sorts of ad hominem attacks. She went and did this on her own page, far, far away from mine, not knowing that I could monitor the traffic and find her site and, call it out. And this is what I did, because a lot of people, this is what they do. Whenever I post blogs that they don't like, they go and they try to attack. They go to their own site to attack me. They never write anything in the comments section, because this is how cowardly and scared they are. Because they know that a lot of the stuff that I put in, because it was all based on rock solid research. Because that was the start of my men's issues initiative, and I really wanted to. I wrote the blog not to attack black women, but I wrote it to, you know, present. Because when I was working at the Strive program, a lot of the things we did there was we confronted people, with their issues and up front. We confronted them face first, and this is what I wanted to do with the blog. Up front, what we did was we confronted the ex-offenders and the drug addicts and the homeless people, and these thugs and the former gangbangers, because we confronted them with their behaviors, because we wanted them to understand that why these behaviors are destructive, why these behaviors are holding them back, and why these behaviors are keeping them from moving forward in a place like the job market. And I thought using that hard approach would help black women understand how their approaches to life are preventing them from moving forward in relationships with black men. And that's the main reason why I wrote the blog in the way that I did. But the response I got was so much, and I just got tired of going back and forth, because I had other projects I was pursuing, because because this was over the course of 2 years, and people just writing the same comments over and over again, the same ad hominem attacks, the same shaming tactics, going back and forth, to the point where I just said enough is enough. I'm not going to keep going back and forth with you. I'm just going to write a book. And I wrote this in the blog comment section after, and then after that, I just shut it down. I said I'm going to write a Why 70% of Black Women Are Single book, and I took most of 20. I took a good part of 2014 because I had lots of research. I had lots of information. I compiled over the years, and I also had my experiences from publishing, not from dating, but from publishing, because I've read a lot of these different books from these different authors. Your Terry McMillans, um, your Connie Briscoes, your all the Black women books from the 1990s. And even some of the ones from 2000s, like Trisha Thomas's Napoli Ever After. And I had research from, articles like the Oprah Winfrey, the Nightline piece about the single black woman. I even had the information from, Pat Croce Moving In, where he interviewed a single black woman who said she could not get a man. And I took all of this information and I took it and I compiled it and decided, what, I'm going to put this together in a book. And I also took historical information from your civil rights era, your post civil, I mean civil rights era, the war on poverty, um, and even talking about the single mothers and the welfare and all that other stuff. And I put this all together as part of my research. And I even took part of Steve Harvey's ridiculous, cartoon book, because a lot of people, they think that Steve Harvey's book was part of it was some sort of great, you know brilliant book, but it was really, after I read it, it was like really cartoonish on cardboard, and I had to agree with the Iceman on that. This book is ridiculous. It does not help black women in any way, and women like Terry McMillan didn't help, because they were talking about black women being single, how there was a pool of eligible black men. Because when I did my research, I found things that were completely different and contradictory to all of the things that I've heard about this reasons why black women are single. Because the main reason a lot of people talk about black women being single is this pool of eligible black men not being available. And I found this to be a lie. I did the research over the last few years. I mean, and I find that there are plenty of eligible single black men out there, but the problem is that the media has told this lie to black women, and they believe it. It's not true at all. There are eligible single black men out there. There are decent brothers out there who are available, but because the black woman's mind is messed up by this Madison Avenue and Hollywood media and this social engineering over the last 40 years, she can't see them. She's still she's confused, and this is some of the things I wanted to go into. And I also use the very Bible many of black women have read, the Christian Bible, to talk about why black women are single, because this is the root. I find when I was reading my Bible, because the root of a lot of this is because a lot of black women are outside of God's natural order. This is the main reason why 70% of black women are single, is because they are outside of God's natural order. I mean, if you read your Bible, you will see um, the facts right in front of you. Because it says in the beginning, God created man, and he created man to be the head of the family. He made man to be the leader. He gave man dominion over the earth. And after he created man, he decided to create a helpmeet for him, and the helpmeet was the woman. But if you go and you take a look at the black community, you will see the order has been reversed. Um, and the natural order that God established, where God is the head of the universe, man is his leader on the earth, and the woman is the helpmeet, and the children follow behind him. The God, Jesus, man, and woman, the natural order established way back in the beginning of time, is not the order in the black community. If you go to the black community, you will see this dysfunctional order, which is the white Jesus, the black woman, the black children, um, the pets, and then at the end you will see the black man. And what's wrong with that order, and what has it caused chaos? One, God, the leader, the creator of the universe, is not in his natural position as the leader and the head of everything. Two, the man, the black man, is not in his leadership position as the head of the family and leader of the black community. And if without the two leaders, you're going to have chaos. I mean, and that's what we have in the black community because the black men are not leading the community and they're not leading their families because we had that until the tail end of the civil rights movement when Lyndon Johnson began his war on poverty. That's what led to the dismantling, of the black family, and that's what I found from doing my research is that that's where we see this dysfunction that's causing the 70% of black women to be single today, and this was socially engineered by white supremacists to destroy the black family. And the reason why they wanted to destroy the black family was not because of racism, but because of economics. I mean, yeah, because white supremacy did not want to compete with a patriarchal black family because before the civil rights movement and this integration, we had a patriarchal black family. I mean, this was even with the Civil War, even with slavery, the black family was intact. It was a patriarchal family, and even from the north to the south, we had that patriarchal black family, and the father was in charge. He was following God's natural order, and we had black business, and in that order, we had black businesses, black people had families together. I mean, they had some black people had jobs. I mean, jobs like Pullman Porter and stuff like that. But it built a solid black middle class. It built a solid black economy. It wasn't the greatest economy in the world, but the white economy wasn't great either. If you watch shows like The Honeymooners and Route 66, you will get that fairly accurate picture. And even the movie Marty, you get a fairly accurate picture of what economics was like for white people because they were pretty much on the same level until even after World War II, it was still the same level. But we had our own businesses and we had our own business infrastructure, even though we did have some business things like Black Wall Street, some black towns like Black Wall Street and Rosewood burnt down earlier, and then like the teens and the 20s, we still had a black economic infrastructure. And what white supremacy feared was that if we pass these laws, and there's equal protection under the law, that they were going to have to compete with black businesses and black people. So they did things to undermine and destroy the black economy because they wanted to control the black dollar. And what does this have to do with black women being single? It's very important to keeping black women single because black women being single is a cornerstone in white supremacy's economy and controlling the black dollar. You have to understand controlling the dollar means you have control over the community, and this is paramount. You know, for keeping people poor and oppressed is controlling their dollars and controlling the flow of those dollars because under a patriarchal economy, a black patriarchal economy, the black dollars were staying in the black community up until the mid 1960s, where Dr. King went along with this thing with integration. This is why a lot of people don't understand. Even Dr. King himself regretted this because when black people started taking their dollars out of their community, stopped shopping at their black-owned businesses, stopped shopping at their black-owned hotels, staying at their black-owned hotels, stopped shopping at black-owned restaurants, stopped participating in group economics, and started taking their dollars to your Woolworths, your Barneys, stores that never wanted black dollars in the first place. It led to an utter economic devastation of the black community because and then also there was a resource drain because a lot of black people were going to get jobs at non-black businesses, and that took further resources out of the community because a lot of black people who had businesses, what they did was they took their black-owned business, closed it down, like the lawyers, the doctors, and stuff like that, and started working for white businesses for what they believed was twice the salary, not understanding that, you know, the economic power they had, they could have built on it because a lot of sad part is a lot of black people just did not have the vision to understand that, in the 60s, that, you needed to build your black community and maintain your black community, you know, and they didn't do this. So what happened was the black community um, lost its economic base, and that was one part of it. And then after this, what led to the total split of the black family was two things from President Johnson, which was at the time because right after he passed these civil rights acts, the Civil Rights Act of '64 and the Voting Rights Act, I think of '65, what he did was he ramped up the Vietnam offensive, um, and disproportionately sent black men out of the homes to fight in it because our most educated at the time, if you had a high school diploma, you were pretty much going to be sent to Viet. You were because the draft was in. You had to do 2 years of military service. So a lot of white kids didn't want to do the draft. So that what did they do? They went out. They got black men to go fight the war. They drafted them disproportionately when draft cards came up in certain southern towns because I did a research on this. Certain southern towns, the draft boards would just draft all the black boys who were 18, finished high school, and they sent them to go fight in the Vietnam War. So that really divided the black community. You had a lot of black men who were out here fighting this Vietnam War, um, and you had black women who were at home, and that led to a big divide. And while the black women were at home, they were being bombarded with TV shows like Julia. And what did Julia show black women? This black single mother, and she was being helped and cared for, supported by, good, kindly white folks, good, kindly white liberals, and the same good, kindly white liberals she saw on television were also in the White House under President Johnson's war on poverty programs, implementing these policies to again further undermine the black economy. Because our businesses, our people were just walking away from our businesses and our infrastructure and economically. Two, our men were being disproportionately sent to Vietnam, and three, here comes these white liberal policies that are alleged to have made things equal when we could have made things equal ourselves. All we wanted was what we really wanted under the civil rights movement was equal protection under the law and the ability to to be safe from terrorism like the Ku Klux Klan, terrorism from um, you know lynchings, burnings, having your business destroyed, um, the ability to get your insurance back, because black people couldn't get those things under Jim Crow. We couldn't get insurance a lot of times if somebody was killed in a lynching. If our business were burnt down, we couldn't get insurance back. We couldn't rebuild anything. A lot of times people were threatened, and you had to. This is what black people really wanted from the civil rights movement, and we also wanted access to quality public schools, and that not when I mean say access to quality public schools, I mean access to the same resources and the same materials that white kids were getting, because white kids were getting they were getting all the materials, and we were still paying taxes. A lot of these black men who were working as Pullman porters, they were paying taxes, and chauffeurs, they were paying taxes, but they weren't getting any services in exchange for what they were putting in. I mean, even black women were maids and stuff, and they weren't getting their tax dollars back. In terms of services, they weren't getting the bus. They couldn't even ride on the buses, even though they paid taxes for these buses, and they couldn't get welfare, even though they paid taxes into that welfare system. Um, and this is what black people really wanted. They wanted equal rights and equal protection in the law, but somehow in this integration malaise, things got mixed up, and black people thought, oh, because I can shop at non-black businesses that they were equal, and they just fell apart. And this is what led to this social engineering of the modern day single black woman. And I'm going to continue talking about this. And after this, while this was going on, again, the dismantling, people abandoning the black-owned businesses and the black-owned stores, black men being sent to Vietnam disproportionately, and black women watching these shows like Julia, which featured the black single mother, which was the model for it. If you really watch the 1960 show Julia, it is the model for the modern day black single mother. Um, what came behind that was your white feminist. Now, your white feminist, um, way back in the 1800s, was considered a reject of society, but she served a purpose in undermining the black economy. The white liberals used her as a tool. It's well known fact Gloria Steinem was a CIA agent, and the goal, while a good chunk of these good decent black men were out fighting the Vietnam War, they came to them black women talking this stuff about you're not a black woman, you're just a woman, and your rights as a woman are being you know you're being oppressed, and this was a lie. I mean, if we really historically looked at black women, the thing is that a lot of people during the civil rights movement didn't really take that, use a critical thinking to take a look at it and say, I have always been working. Everything has always been equal. Because if you look at black women, they've always, during the civil rights movement, they were always equal. Black women had to work and black men had to work. It was the only way a lot of black families could have that middle class life or even just stay keeping their heads above water. Both of them had to work. And the black woman was never being oppressed by the black man because, one, black man never controlled economic policy in the black community. Two, black man never had political power in the black community. This is even with black owned businesses. He never had, true economic and political power. So he never oppressed the black woman. But the feminists told the black woman she could be equal. And the reason why a lot of black women at the time bought into what the feminists said was because they thought they could be just like white women. But they didn't understand. This is another thing that the white liberal did. He played a dirty trick on a lot of black women with, is that he told them, that they could be like white women, but the white women he was trying them to be like were some of the most dysfunctional in the United States. They were, again, the white feminist has always been a reject of society, white society. She's always been on the fringe. She's the one nobody wanted to deal with because she was a lesbian, and a lot of them were mentally ill on top of that. I mean, historically, if you look at the information of many of the feminists, like your Valerie Solanas, who was mentally ill, Gloria Steinem had severe father issues. There were several others. I forget it. Susan B. Anthony was a hardcore racist. Um, and Margaret Sanger wanted to eugenically destroy the black race, but many black women at the time, just didn't understand, the historical impact of feminism. White feminism, and that's the reason why I call it white feminism, is they're the cheerleaders of white supremacy. These were the same white women who were at those lynchings of black men, and these were the same white women who were crying rape of black men. These were, and some of them were just lesbians, plain and simple. They never liked men, period. And this was their way of um, moving up the social food chain for a while. And they tricked black women into believing that they could be the equals of white women, and a lot of black women wanted to be the equals of white women. And what they didn't understand was that your white feminist is severely dysfunctional, and her way of thinking is severely dysfunctional. It's completely outside of God's natural order, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of today's black women have a chaotic way of thinking, because a lot of them intergenerationally grew up in homes where they had this type of feminism presented to them every day, in TV shows, in magazines and newspapers. Because if you really look at it, some of the statements that are made by, your black woman today, like, I'm a strong, independent black woman, I don't need no man. These are statements that are clearly outside of God's natural order. Um, how can you say that you're strong and independent when everything is interdependent on God and the natural order? Um, you can't say that you're interdependent. I mean, independent. I mean, because in order for an organism to be independent, it has to be able to function by itself without anything. And the black woman cannot function, without her man. This is the way God created things. And to say you don't need a man when God Himself created you to be the partner and helper of a man, again, that shows how clearly outside the order these white feminists were and how mentally disturbed they were. Um, and a lot of black women imbibed these ideas and these ideals, and they believed them. And and this is what took the black community off track and really outside the order of God. Um, and it took it completely off the order of God. Um, and this is where we completely fell apart. Um, the feminists sat there and told them, you can be your own woman, you can do your own thing. Again, all of these statements completely outside of the order of God, completely outside of what God said and the roles He established for men and women. And the only community who was following this dysfunctional order heavily is the black community, and the only women following these kind of these insane roles are black women primarily. And they used this brainwashing, and then on top of it, while this was being this mindset was put in place, you had your social programs from the war on poverty being put in place. They opened up welfare to black women, and then they opened up other things like job trainings and colleges, and they opened this stuff up because they opened this up to divide the black family. Um, because the man was not at home. He was either fighting the Vietnam War. Um, then the only men who were left were like the most undesirable men all over. And I talk about this in the book. These undesirable men, these convicts, these hustlers, these pimps, and they also bombarded, the remaining black boys with these type of images of these, hyper masculine pimps, these hustlers, these dope dealers, number runners. You know, this is what they did with black films, black exploitation films, and the whole thing was to get that next generation screwed up, while they were screwing up the post civil rights generation with the exact same media, and they were trying to get everybody screwed up. And what they did was the goal was to undermine the black economy and to destroy the black economy, and most importantly, change the flow of those dollars from patriarchy to matriarchal dollars. And what is the difference between a patriarchal dollar and a matriarchal dollar? You can see it right now outside of your window if you live in a black community. A patriarchal dollar is invested back into the community and used to buy capital and resources towards improving businesses or improving the quality of life in the community. And in every other community, black, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, even some Arab communities, every dollar that's is invested in a patriarchal way towards reinvested into businesses and stuff. But when you have a matriarchal dollar, which is controlled by women, it's towards consumerism. It's a consumer dollar. And those dollars are used mostly for caring for the home and for buying consumer products. And that's what we have in the black community after the social programs and the affirmative action programs of the 70s, and the total breakdown of the family, because we had the family just completely break down in the mid 70s after these social programs came in place. And people said that they were doing part of these war on poverty was supposed to be, black men was supposed to be getting jobs, but black men didn't get most of the jobs or the control of the dollar during that time. It was, your black woman got most of the dollars. And we went from black women being a part of the patriarchal order and under the leadership of black men and God to them being taken care of by a white man, and that white man's name is Uncle Sam. And he is controlling the black dollar now, and he is controlling the black economy now. And because he controls the black dollar and the black economy, this is why the black community has so many single black women, because the black men have been, as David Carroll said once, surgically removed from the family, and I'll say surgically removed, from the black economy. Um, and this is why so many black women are single, because today you don't have black men participating in the economy. You don't have the black men creating the jobs. You don't have them creating the businesses, and you don't have them controlling the black dollar in the black community. Um, and the whole thing is that while the black dollar is in the hands of the American black woman, it's controlled by this matriarchal economic system. Um, there is no, we have lost, 3.3 trillion dollars a year in economic money and economic growth. This is why we have the worst schools. Our communities have all these sewage treatment plants. We have no businesses. We don't own any businesses. All of the black dollars are on a consumer track. And that consumer track was designed to socially engineered and socially designed to keep black money from competing with white money. And as long as the black dollar is going in the hands of everybody else, and I talk about this early in the book, because the black woman is the best consumer, best customer non-black businesses ever had. She's the best customer they have ever had. They have made, again, they get 97% of the money from the from the black woman, and they use that to enrich themselves. I mean, white people send their kids to college on black dollars. Arab people send their kids to school on black dollars from their delis and groceries. Hispanic people send their kids to college on black dollars at their supermarkets and bodegas. Um, Koreans send their kids to college in private schools based on black people spending money on their nails and their hair weaves. I mean, the black dollar is funding everybody else's enrichment and keeping black people poor. And that I'm not. And when I was trying to do this in the book, I'm not blaming black women for anything, because when we look at it, this is socially engineered. This was socially designed. It was about destroying the black family and keeping it from competing with white people. And this was engineered by the wealthy. It was engineered by the rich, and it was done over a period of time. And black people they didn't have their eye on the prize. All the way back in the '60s, a lot of us, we were right after that Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act were passed. The black community became very fragmented. We had, Black Panthers, they were going in one direction. We had, you know, people getting disenfranchised with Dr. King before he died. Malcolm X had been assassinated. The black community had become very fragmented, and this is what led to the social engineering campaign being put into place, as I see it. And this is what led to black women being single, because this was socially engineered. It was designed to destroy the black family, because once you change the flow of dollars, you change the way people live. And the entire economic system of the black community was totally upheaved over the last 40 years. And this is why we have so many black women being single. And part of that social engineering of keeping that black woman single is selling them a product. And I talk about this in the book as well. How your Steve Harveys, your Tyler Perrys, your Lee Daniels, your Terry McMillans, and your Oprah Winfreys, they're there for a reason, because they're selling black women an idea. And the idea is that there is this shortage of black men, of good, eligible, educated black men. And there is no shortage. Again, I'll say this again. There was no shortage of eligible, educated black men. There are plenty of black men out there. And I ran into quite a few of them on the YouTube channels, like your Icemans, your Rick Scorpios, your Harvey Superboys, your General Backlashes, your Dan Freemans, Brownhorn 71s. There are plenty of good black men out there. But, because the standards that black women have are not, consistent with a um, reality, and they're controlled, by white supremacy. They can't see those men because they're buying into what Madison Avenue and Hollywood are selling them about black men. They're buying into their standard because black women before the civil rights movement, they had their own standards for beauty, and they also had their own standards for what they regarded as a good man. Our standards were completely different. But after the integration, the black woman standard became, the same as they wanted the same type of man as a white man. They wanted a black man to be just like a white man. And that's just not possible because white supremacy does not want a black man to be the same as a white man because they don't want to compete with a white man for the exact same resources. What they want is for the black man to be under the black woman. They want the black man to be at the bottom. And then they want the black woman to be chasing this unrealistic standard of this ideal, perfect black man. This brother on the S Curl box, Shamar Moore, some biracial pretty boy that they dress up and muscle bound pretty boy as the ideal, or one of these NBA ball players, some man that is just totally unattainable and totally unrealistic, even with a guy with a college degree like myself. There is no way we can ever attain that level of so-called success unless you're doing certain things, like your black pastors who are also part of this, and I talk about them at length because they are also a major component of keeping black women single. Um, your black pastor, he sells people this fake pseudo-Christian religion featuring this white Jesus so that they will continue to give him money, and so he's also part of the whole game, like your Tyler Perry's and your Oprah Winfrey's. I'm selling you this idea that this black man is no good, he's not taking care of business, and that if you give me 10% of your income, you can pray to my white God, not the real living God, the white God, and because this is the cornerstone of what keeps black women single, is these black churches, and their dysfunctional religion. They don't want you to follow the living God. They don't want you to follow God's natural order, where the black woman is the helpmeet and she's the support of the black man, and she's helping her black male leaders, um, you know, build the community. What he wants you to do is follow him and his dysfunctional doctrine, which is a hodgepodge of feminism, biblical scriptures, and just plain insanity. Um, his religion is designed, to keep black women under control. It's designed to pacify black women, and it's completely outside of the order of God. Because when you have a church that's mostly black women, and if you look at God's natural order, if you're going to go have a church, I looked at churches all over, and when you look at the white churches, the father is right there with them if he does go to church. If you go to any other religion, the father is right there, and the father is has an active role in that religion. But if you go to the black church, there's all black women there. There is no black men there, um, and he is leading all the black women, and he is taking them outside of God's natural order, and he's doing that because that 10% that he gets off the top, white supremacy gives him that tax free for pacifying the black female masses and keeping that flow of black dollars flowing into the non-black communities. This cabal has sat there, and they're getting rich because they need this pastor to help them and to help them stay wealthy. And this is how they stay wealthy, by him selling them this false doctrine to black women, this dysfunctional, blessing, prosperity, religion. None of this has anything to do with God at all. None of this has anything to do with the Word of God. None of it has anything to do with God's natural order and how He created things to be on the earth, and how because He wanted man and woman to be the stewards of the earth, and to do works for Him. But your white supremacist, he wants everybody to do things for him. So what he did was he got in with these pastors and used them as his control rods, to control the black community. In between your pastor, um, and Madison Avenue in Hollywood, you have a lot of black women single. This is the main reason why you have the black, because they're chasing, ideals instead of reality. They're not. They don't understand that your black man cannot be like a white man. He cannot have the same money as a white man. He cannot, because the economic system has been taken away from him. I mean, when he switched from a patriarchy to a matriarchy, black man doesn't control any of the money. He doesn't control any of the resources, and he cannot ever be on that level. And the few people who are on that level, your so-called elite black men, they're really Uncle Toms and sellouts. They don't care about the black community, um, and they have pretty much pled allegiance to white supremacy. So those men that the plenty black women are chasing are unattainable and unavailable. And the whole idea of the values that you have about this good black man, most of them are created by white people. Again, we're not creating the standard anymore. And this is another reason why black women are single, because they're chasing a standard that was not created by black women. It's created by white supremacists. Um, all of these lists that you see these black women running around with, those were created. Those are, excuse me, sinuses. Those are not realistic lists, based in any reality that black men live in. They are, and ever have lived in. Even during Jim Crow, this was never the standard, because your elite black man was never like this. Even your rich black man was never like this. Um, this stuff, 6 pack, Harvard education, drives a luxury car. I can go on and on and on. Wears Armani suits, because Pat Croce, he totally deconstructed this and refuted it in an episode of his show way back in 2000. I remember that show because I sat down. I had a day off from work and I sat down and I watched it. And he totally deconstructed it. This black woman came to him with this list. And he totally deconstructed this list. And there were never any. He said to her, there's nothing in this list pertaining to internal character. I see Kenneth Cole shoes. I see Armani suit. I see tall. I see 6 pack. I see luxury car. But I don't see things pertaining to internal character, like the man being kind, like the man being honest, like the man being loving, like the man being caring. And that episode, pretty much, a lot of people probably never saw this episode. They probably don't even remember this episode because it's 15 years ago. But he took the black woman's list and he compassionately deconstructed it, refuted it, and tried to get her to understand the things that you're looking for in a man are unrealistic. And he tried to get her to see, you're missing out on all the decent black men out here, because the list you have is unrealistic and totally distorted. And this is what the social engineering campaign was designed to do. It was designed to, take the ideas that black women had about black men and, turn them into ideas that you're going to get a chocolate covered white man. This chocolate covered white man does not exist. He will never exist, because under the order of white supremacy, again, the black man is beneath the children. He's in the place of a pet dog. So how can he be what the equal of a white man? It's just not what you're looking for. It does not exist. I mean, if you believe in this good black man and you're continuing to look for this good black man, you may as well be looking for Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, because he does not exist. He does not exist on this plane. He is a social construct created by Madison Avenue in Hollywood and other businesses to keep the black woman chasing her own tail, and keep her away from decent black men and building a black family, because white supremacy does not want a return of a patriarchal black family. And I go into this in the early chapters of why 70% of black women are single. He does not want a patriarchal black family, because a patriarchal black family is going to be building businesses and building infrastructure and demanding equal rights, under the law, and equal protection under the law. And he's going to be, and pastors don't want a patriarchal black family because it runs counter to his money. I mean, the pastor's getting a nice 10% off the top of that $3.3 trillion in cash and credit from these black women. every Sunday he gets 10% off the top, and he doesn't want, you know, your black family to be natural with the father in the home. He because with the father, because remember, under God's order, the father is the head of the family. He's a leader of the family. He controls the finances of the family. So that pastor does not want the black dollar in the hands of the black man, because if that dollar is in the hands of the black man, guess what happens? His income is going to be cut by 50%, because you know what? He's going to follow the, not the Malachi 3:10 that a lot of these pastors like to preach about giving and tithing. He's going to follow what Jesus said, which was, give or as you are able to give. And he's going to take care of his household. He's going to put, God first and the household first. And, he's going to put that first. And he's going to put the pastor dead last. Because when you look at the black dollar controlled by the black female, that pastor gets his first. And the woman thinks that she's giving the money to God. But she's not giving it to God, because her God is not the living God. I keep saying this. Her God is the white man. And her God is this white man. She doesn't see it. She thinks that the white Jesus is the God that she's following. But the God she's worshiping is the white man. And when you look at this, these are the reasons why your black woman is single. Again, it has nothing to do with the eligible pool of black men. It has to do with social engineering and a total dismantling of the black economy, and a total dismantling and surgical destruction of the black family. Because this is what the white liberal policies did, is that it removed the black father from the home, because of these welfare programs and social programs, because you had to be a single black woman in order to get these programs. And what I say about social engineering is that it wasn't about that generation in the 60s and the 70s. It was about teaching the children, because again, the black woman is the teacher of culture. She is the one that teaches the culture that's passed down from one generation to the next. And that's the reason why white supremacy targeted the black woman, is because she is the one who's going to be teaching this culture to her children, to her grandchildren, and they're the ones who are going to be learning this as a way of life. And if we look at the black community over the last 40 years, this is what they have learned as a culture and as a family, because we've gone from, families that was intact with a mother, a father, a children, and people following God's natural order, to this, as I said early in the video, a broken family order where you have the white supremacy as the God, white Jesus as the God, the black woman is the head of the family, the black children are behind her, the pets, if they're possible, your pit bull terriers or other dogs, are behind that, and your black man is at the bottom. And God and the black man, the two leaders and stewards of the earth, are completely separated from the order. And that's why your black community can never grow and it can never build, because you can't do anything without God or the man he created as leader and steward of the earth, and the one who has the true dominion of the earth, in their natural positions. So this is the main reason. This is the primary reason why the black woman is single. But the other ones is part of the social engineering, because this is the culture that has been transmitted and taught from mother to daughter to son, and even the grandson. Because I did the research on it, and I said to myself, I even looked at my own family. A lot of the women are single, their daughters are single, their nieces are single, the granddaughters are single, and they're all learning this culture that they were taught, generation after generation after generation. Because marriage is no longer an option for black women. It's been socially engineered out of the black family. I mean, we no longer think about, because before the civil rights movement, um, and before these social programs came into place, your black woman would not get involved with a man unless she married him. And with this social engineering, it became, because we had this sexual revolution, we joined in with these white women. Um, we have this, okay, and then in social engineering with the Julia program, we have this engineering of it's okay to be a single mother, because before then it was a shame to be a single mother, and it was, you had a stigma on you, and you even had a stigma on you if you were sexually promiscuous. But because a lot of black women wanted to be just like white women, um, We have people who just want to be single. They think it's okay to be a single mom. They think it's okay to be sexually promiscuous because before the civil rights movement, this was considered socially unacceptable behavior. And I go into this in the book as well. Um, and it was considered socially unacceptable, but now it's considered a social norm. This is all due to social engineering because, again, they want to destroy the black family and they want to destroy the black community. And they want to destroy the flow and change the flow of black dollars from, building the black community to building other black community. Not other black communities, but other communities, non-black communities. But this is what was done. And it led to this, and this is why a lot of today's black women, they're really confused. They have an identity crisis because they're trying to, take this square peg of white supremacy and shove it in the round hole of God's natural order, and it doesn't fit. And until black women start to understand that, you cannot take something from man and fit it into God's order, it is never going to work. We're always going to have a large majority of black women being single because the main reason, as I've said before, for this is that you have black women trying to fit man's order into God's order, and none of the two will fit. Because the whole thing is that black women are getting a lot of economic benefits from this white supremacist, man-made matriarchal order, this matriarchal economy, and this is how you get your jobs. This is how you get taken care of, and he has become like a god. The white man known as Uncle Sam has become the god of the black woman. I mean, they say they serve God, they say they believe in Jesus, but they don't. They really believe in a white Jesus and a white God. This is a false God created, by men, because religion is made by men. It's not about having a true relationship with the true living God. It's about being controlled by other men, like your black pastors. Um, and this was done so they could control the black dollar. And what black women are trying to do is they're trying to reconcile these two orders, and some of them are scared of, a patriarchal order themselves. That's why they are so resistant to black men and resistant to being a partner to a black man. And they have all these unrealistic standards because they want that black man to, you know, maintain that order, the economic freedom and economic power that they have under white supremacy. And you can't have the two because, God's natural order is always is perfect. It's never going to be superseded. It's never going to be overridden, and it's never going to change. You cannot change God's natural order. And what the black woman keeps trying to do is trying to fit the order of white supremacy, that square peg, into that round hole, of God's natural order. That square peg of white supremacy in the round hole of God's natural order. It's never going to fit. Black man understands this. He understands that God's order is God's order. It's absolutely perfect. It cannot be changed. It will never be changed. No matter how much social engineering white people do, they will never be able to change it. They can socially engineer people all they want. They're just going to be winding up lost and confused and continuing to hit their heads against the wall and chasing carrots like this good man fantasy, because he is a fantasy image. He's a social construct created by Madison Avenue advertisers and Hollywood movie studios, because no black man will ever in his life ever meet that standard, period. And this is what has so many black women remaining single, and they're trying to take black men. A lot of them are trying to take these dysfunctional black males. They look for the weakest black man they can find, because there's another component of it. They look for the weakest black man they can find, like your pimp back in the 70s, your hustler, um, you know, your low grade black male. They're trying to convert this black man so that he can fit within the order of white supremacy. But, your man is naturally created by God. He's hardwired by God in his nature. He's not going to follow that order. He may go along with it for a while, but instinctively he's going to say to himself, something is wrong with this order. And this is why a lot of black women keep hitting a wall when they try to have relationships with black men, is that they're trying to make this man fit within the order of white supremacy, but no man is going to follow that order. And this is why, so many relationships deteriorate over time, is because, black women try to take this black man, they try to change him, like they try to take your thug, your bad boy, you know, and they're trying to lead him. And God made the man to be the leader. He made the man to be the head of the family. He made the woman to follow the man, and it's natural. And in her natural instincts, this is why a lot of black women don't have respect for black men. Is because this man is somebody she's trying to lead, and she does not respect. A woman naturally is not going to respect the man she has to lead. She's going to see him as weak. She's going to see him as soft, and because a woman's natural position is submission and support. This is the role that God naturally created for the woman. And when she sees herself having to lead a man, she has no respect for him. This is natural. She has no respect for this man. She sees this man as weak. She sees this man as soft, and she sees this man as somebody she can control and manipulate. And she understands that there's no, because that's not the way God made the program. He made it where the woman wants to be a part of the man's program, not a man being a part of the woman's program. This is why a lot of black women have trouble with men, because they're trying to reconcile these two orders, and they don't work. And when you try to try to make the man in a submissive position, it's never going to work, because the man is, one, going to resist you, and two, the woman is going to not respect that man. She's going to see that man as a weak man. She's going to look for another man to eliminate this man. This is why we have so much dysfunction in black male female relationships. Um, is because we have people trying to take this order and reverse it, and you cannot reverse God's natural order. He created this order. It is absolutely perfect. It is absolutely pure, and no creature on earth is, like he said, no weapon will formed against me will prosper. Nothing can break his order. You can try, but you will fail. Guaranteed to fail. And this is why the black community is a complete failure while the rest of the world goes on, because the rest of the world is following the patriarchal order that God naturally established for men and women. We're the only ones who think we can do things like shoehorning other men into family roles. When black women have children, what they try to do is they try to take another man because they hate the father, because they've been brainwashed by this feminism, and they think that they're going to take this man, shoehorn him into this role of a father, and when he tries to be a leader, then they want to eliminate him. They don't understand that a lot of the stuff that they got from the feminists and the white supremacists, a lot of the information, this culture that was transmitted and taught over the last 40 years, over the last two generations, is completely dysfunctional and completely insane. And this is one of the reasons why I wrote the book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, because I want black women to understand, you are completely outside of the order of God. When you listen to minutes of the social engineering that's been going on, and many of the messages that you get from people like your Oprah Winfrey's, your Tyler Perry's, your Lee Daniels, these people are completely outside of the order. Even your black pastors, all of them are completely outside of the order of God. And as long as you follow these people, you're going to remain single for the rest of your life, because they don't want. They are part of the infrastructure that does not want the black family to ever be together. The whole thing is that white supremacy does not want a black man and a black woman to be together, because they fear competition from the inside for resources. They know that every other immigrant group is going to submit to white supremacy. Your Italians, your Greeks, everybody else, even Hispanics now are submitting to the order of white supremacy. But what they fear is that, you know, if blacks come in, that aren't going to submit to white supremacy. They're going to try to create their own thing, like they did after the Reconstruction. What black people did was they created their own economy. They created their own system, because black people, after the Civil War, you know, they were the skilled artisans, the skilled craftsmen, and once they got out from under white supremacy, then um, they were building their own economy and own infrastructure, and a lot of people feared that, and that's something that they did, um, and their economy was on par with that of white people, and I'm going to go in depth about the Civil War later on in another video, but the Civil War, again, also, that had nothing to do with Lincoln. Lincoln did not free the slaves because he liked black people, and the Republican Party never even cared about black people. They had a plan to send black people to Liberia after the Civil War, but Lincoln was assassinated before that could happen. And the whole thing was, black people, um, they they were out there and they were building their own thing, and white people didn't like the idea of black people building it then, and they wanted to have black people dependent on them, and this is what the fruition of keeping this black woman single is keeping black people dependent on white supremacy. Um, I know I went on a tangent there, but it all pertains to all the points I was making in the book. They wanted to keep black women single, because keeping black women single meant they controlled the economy, and controlling the black economy is very important. And black people never look at the economics, and this was one of the Achilles heel of the civil rights movement, is that we never looked at the economics. We never looked at how our dollars were flowing. We were like, because a lot of black people were emotional and they were thinking about getting on this bus and being accepted. Was one of the big flaws of the civil rights movement. And I know a lot of people are going to get upset with me for criticizing the civil rights movement, but this was one of the big flaws of the civil rights movement, and it was the Achilles heel, is that we didn't look out for economics. We looked for acceptance. And most black men today understand that they're never going to be accepted by white people, and it's ridiculous to look for acceptance of white people, because you know or any people. You should never look for acceptance from anyone. I mean, the only person you need to please is God Himself, and that's the only person on earth you need to please. You don't need to please anyone else, and this is what is the Achilles heel: is that we don't look at the economy. We're so busy looking for pleasing a white person or appeasing white slave masters, that because that's what these Democrats and all these other politicians are, and all these business people are. We're looking to make somebody else happy, that we give away our own personal power. And this is why this is one of the core components of it. In addition to God's natural order being disrupted, and you know, um, the economy being is that we keep looking for approval of others, and most black women are looking for a black man to meet a white standard, and you're going to be single for the rest of your life if you continue to look for the chocolate covered white man, the guy on the escrow box, the Shamar Moore, or even some black women today. They're still looking for these guys to be like these rappers or these ball players, guys who they saw in their childhood. Um, and in their teen years, they're looking for a guy like that, and that guy doesn't exist. He's also manufactured, like your rappers and your ball players. Man, he's manufactured by white supremacy and manufactured by corporations. He wouldn't have half of this stuff if he wasn't, a corporate shill or a corporate yes man who did whatever, his bosses told him to do. And that's what the fantasy is, because they're looking for this good man again, and this good man does not exist. He's like the Easter Bunny. He's like Santa Claus. He's like Bigfoot. He does not exist. And while you're looking for that good man, so-called good man, or trying to make men good who are good enough for you, this is another thing I go into in the book. Because a lot of black women, when they can't get that good man, they try to make men who are good for them, men who they can control, who they can manipulate, and men who will agree to being men on their terms. And they try to fit these men into their order, and it just turns into chaos, because the men themselves are going to resist, and then they're going to not respect those men, because they're going to see those men as weak. Because when a man starts submitting to a woman and doing things on a woman's terms, women see that man as weak. They see that man as submissive, and they have no respect for that man. Um, I know I've been going off on another tangent here, but it all relates to why black women are single. And again, this has been socially engineered, and you have to unplug yourself from the matrix and unplug yourself from this social engineering if you want to find a realistic man of character. Because what like Pat Croce said in that show, what black women need to be looking for is a man who is responsible, conscientious, diligent. Um, you have to look at his internal character, and the problem is a lot of black women are still buying into these white supremacist ideas about black women, these fantasies about black men. They're looking for this perfect black man when this man doesn't exist. Again, he's like the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus or Bigfoot, and instead they're overlooking all of these decent, good quality black men like I've seen, on your YouTube videos. So there's a lot of good brothers out there, and they're making videos, and they've tried to explain things to black women, just like I tried to explain things to black women in the blog. But because many women they buy into the social advertising and the social engineering, they can't believe it. I mean, and they don't understand that black community is at war with white supremacy every day. And the most profitable business for white supremacy is war. And one of the most profitable wars they've had over the last 40 years is the gender war, because having the black man at odds with the black woman is how they make money. Again, boils right back down to economics. Keeping the black woman single has a core economic component to it, and keeping her single is how they make money. As long as she's buying the gun, as long as both sides are buying guns and butter, he continues to get him and his cabal of predators continue to get rich. And who is in that cabal of predators is your black pastor, your black entertainers, your foreign-owned stores, your hair salons, um, most of your corporate consumer businesses. All these people make money from keeping black men and black women fighting each other and arguing with each other. Because when they see a black man and a black woman having a Facebook war or YouTube war or beef, they're making money off of that. Because war is the most profitable business in America. Because America is a business, and keeping people separated is how they conquer them. Because, it says in the Bible, again, house divided cannot stand. And the black community is a house divided. If you look at the black family, it is a house divided. And this is why the black community is falling apart, because, both sides are so busy fighting each other that they're not building anything. They're so busy tearing each other down that they're not working together as the way God intended towards building um, a family and a community. Because I look at the black community, you know, I saw remnants of it and remains of it growing up as a little boy in the South Bronx. There was, people were poor but proud. They loved each other. They worked together to a point. I mean, feminism hadn't really poisoned the black family until, heroin had done some damage and feminism had did some damage. But it wasn't until crack cocaine came along that, the wrecking ball really started slamming into the walls of the black family. I mean, it survived up to a point. The liberal policies did do some, devastating damage, and it really cracked the infrastructure and all that stuff. But crack cocaine was one of the big things that just blew the black family to pieces. It was like a thermonuclear bomb that was dropped on the black community. I mean, it had already been assaulted and attacked with this white liberal policy, like I said before, the feminism, and, black people's cognitive distortion, thinking that, you know, having everything white meant better and all of these other things. But crack cocaine was like the thermonuclear bomb, and this is how we went from, because we still had some sort of unity and we had some sort of black family, semblance of a black family. But now there is no, as I look at it now, there is no semblance of a black family whatsoever. And this is why so many black women are single today, is because, social engineering and, all of these other things were sent to attack the black family over time. And black people just don't understand that they're at war. You have both sides are divided. They're fighting each other. You have your black woman medicating herself with dollars as consumers. You have your black male who grew up in a lot of these single mother households. He's so confused into his identity. He doesn't even know what being a leader is. He thinks it's natural to follow a woman. You have the black girl who was grown up. She's grown up with a bit of a masculine trait. And she thinks it's okay to, be the leader of the family. Again, the whole family is socially engineered into dysfunction. The whole family is not following God's natural order. It's following the order of white supremacy. And this is why the black community has gone from building, because they're so busy fighting each other. And this gender war is how they make money. How white supremacists, again, pastors, foreign business, is making billions of dollars. That's why 97% of that, $3.3 trillion is flowing from into those non-white and non-black businesses out of the black community and not enriching it. I mean, every other community, even the Hispanic community, the money is still flowing back into the Hispanic community, back into the Asian community, back into the Arab community. But they take your dollars and theirs and teach the next generation on how to build an economy. And As long as black women continue to follow this, broken order created by white supremacists, this is the way it's going to be. And sadly, because we have 70% of black women single, it looks like nothing's going to change anytime soon. Because this was socially engineered and it was socially designed. It was constructed to destroy the black family, and it was done very successfully. This social engineering campaign over the last 40 years. Again, as I stated before earlier in the video, there is no shortage of black men. You can find black men anywhere. There are a lot of decent, educated black men in your neighborhood. But as long as the black woman is outside of God's natural order and she's still chasing the carrot of white supremacy and trying to follow and trying to find this fantasy image of a black man, this millionaire who has master's degrees from Harvard, a six-pack abs, drives a luxury car, lives in the finest home. This guy does not exist. He never will exist. He is a creation, a social construct of Madison Avenue advertisers, Hollywood movie studios, and white supremacists. And he is designed to be a carrot for the black woman to chase. And she will always remain single as long as she chases that ideal. There is no man who will ever meet that ideal because white supremacy will not allow a man to meet that ideal, except for the hand-picked Uncle Toms that he puts in these positions. Now he'll allow those guys to come up, but he's not going to allow and these pastors to come up, but he's not going to allow any other man to come up and challenge his order because he doesn't want to compete with black men. And I go into depth with this in the book, and this is what I was going to talk about, in the Blog Talk Radio show that I couldn't go to because I couldn't have access to a phone. I was going to go in deep depth talking about these reasons why black women were single, because the book that I wrote, I wanted to put a different perspective on it because I saw how, Terry McMillan was exploiting black women and Steve Harvey was exploiting black women. I wanted to give black women the truth. Because part of my mission is creating positive stories about the African American experience. And, in my nonfiction, I want to give people, positive information that's going to help them take themselves to the next level. And this branched out of one of my books called The Thetas. One night, I was going on a feminist viewpoint on that book, but then God came to me and said I was going in the wrong direction. And I changed course. I started reading my Bible and I changed course and I saw the natural order that, he established for men and women. And I changed course on the book, and that book became one of my most popular books. And out of that, writing that book, came the blog, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And I started looking at other books that I had read in the past, and it changed my perspective. That one night at 2 o'clock in the morning, it changed my perspective on, male-female relations. And I began to look at things differently, and I wanted to share that information, with other black people. I wanted to talk about why these black women are single, because we think, again, Madison Avenue and Hollywood tell us that there are no decent, eligible black men, but this is how they make money on the black woman, because the black woman, again, she's the best customer white supremacy ever had. She always medicates her pain through spending money, and this is how non-black people, white people, this is how they get rich. This is how they profit, because again, war is the most profitable business in the United States. And if you can have two sides at odds at each other, you can sell them the guns and you can sell them the butter. And this is what has been done over the last, 40 years. They've been selling guns and butter to black people. And while they fight it out, and while their community is in ruins, foreigners and other invaders have taken over the property in the black community, and are feeding and controlling the black family, clothing the black family. And we're not doing this for ourselves. We're not providing for ourselves. We're relying on others. And the black community has gone from an interdependent community that is, relying on God to a codependent community, completely dependent on white supremacy and its foreign cabal and its Negro pastors for everything. That's what I wrote in the book, and that's why I'm urging everyone to go out and get the book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, because you need to understand that what's keeping black women single is a lot more than a shortage of black men. That's a scam that, Terry McMillan used to sell books. That's a scam Tyler Perry uses to sell movies. That's a scam Steve Harvey is using to sell movies. This goes a lot deeper than, a shortage of black men, because that shortage is socially engineered and created by white supremacy altogether. It's not a real shortage. The black men are all around you, but and there are decent black men who are well educated, intelligent, like myself out there, but you know, white supremacy doesn't want those men to come up, and they don't want those men to be known about. What they want to do is have people chasing a handful of men so they can control them. They want the black woman still chasing that carrot, chasing that dream. They don't want the black woman spending her best years of her life building that black family and helping that black man build black businesses in his community, because he does not want a patriarchal black order in the black community. Um, Again, I'm urging you to get the book. It's on Kindle. It's on Smashwords. There's a lot of great information in it. Um, and the book is going to change your life. It's going to open up your mind if you allow it to open up your mind. It's going to open you up, and you're going to be looking at life differently. Because I know when God opened my eyes, and it really changed my perspective about black women and the state of black women and this whole why black women are single. Because again, out of the novel The Thetas came this new view on black women and why black women are single, and that's why I wrote that blog, and that's why I wrote the books, and that's why I wrote the book Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, because we really need to know the true reasons why black women are single. Again, this has been socially engineered and socially designed, and it's by design. It's a man-made design, keeping this black woman single, and it's all about economics, and it's all about controlling an economy. Um, and as long as black people don't understand, economics and the flow of dollars, they're gonna, I'm sorry, sinuses, continue to be lost. I mean, and as long as they don't understand what God's real natural order is, they're going to be lost. And again, I'm urging you to get the ebook, because the ebook is really going to open you up, and it's going to change completely the way you think about male-female relations, because black men and black women really need to start getting together and start working together, because um, you are not black man is not the enemy of the black woman, and the black woman is not the enemy of the black man. The true enemy of black men and black women is white supremacy. The social construct known as white supremacy. It's not even white people. I'm going to go here and say that it's not even white people, because it's white supremacy. And the institution of white supremacy, the social construct of white supremacy, is a false one at that. And a lot of white people buy into it, but it's not even helpful and beneficial to white people. Your enemy is not white people; it's white supremacy, and this is what you have to combat: this propaganda and these ideals, because it's a value system you're fighting, and you have to understand it's a value system. But again, I urge you to get the book Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. It's available on Kindle. It's available on Smashwords. It's available on iTunes through Smashwords. And it's available on Barnes & Noble through Smashwords. I may do a paperback edition if I get enough requests for a paperback edition. Um, but that's up in the air. It's a great book. I really urge you to get it. And that's all I have to say for this video. These are all the points I was going to talk about in the Blog Talk radio show. And I'm hoping that this gives you some perspective on the book, and the ideas in the book, and just helps you to think. I know this video went kind of long, but I had to get out all the points on why 70% of black women are single. The blog was never meant to bash black women. The book was never meant to bash black women. It was meant to get black women reach a point where they could take a look at themselves and do some self-reflection and self-examination, and really take a look at what direction their life is going in, and see that these approaches that they're following and the culture that was been transmitted to them by their mothers and their grandmothers and their aunts is just not working. I mean, when you have 2 and 3 generations of black women being single, um, you have to sit down and assess, especially if you're a younger black woman of that second or third generation, and say to yourself, you know what? These approaches aren't working. I really need to get myself right. I really need to start following God's natural order. I really need to find out what God's natural order is and what God's purpose is in my life, and, get myself right, because what I'm doing isn't working. And the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. It's time for black people, as I see it, to start doing something different and following a different set of approaches to life, and, you know, start creating things on their own way and doing things their own way, and walk away from these dysfunctional ideologies like white feminism, white supremacy, and, just looking to get approval from others. This is something that the civil rights generation just didn't get. That, you have to be like your like the people who were after slavery. They didn't look for approval from white people. A lot of them, they looked for building their own community, and we have to build our own community to our standards and to our own terms, and stop trying to look for approval and trying to do things on somebody else's terms, because that truly is giving your power away. And the only way to get true black power is for you to start creating your own standards and creating your own idea of what black is. We have to define what black is, and the sad part is we haven't defined what black is. We've allowed everybody else to define what black is. We started to define what black was in the early 70s, before the feminists came in and the liberals came in with their policy. Late 60s, early 70s, we were starting to um, we were starting to design our own identity, but then we have to get back on track towards, establishing our own identity again, because, a black community has to get itself together. And I really do believe it's very important for us to get ourselves together, and because we can only do this with a black man and a black woman together. And white supremacy does not want a black man and a black woman to be together. Um, that's the only way you're going to build a family. That's the only way you're going to be able to teach values to the next generation. And that's the way God intended for things to be. He intended for a black man and a black woman to be together. He wants black men and black women to create families. And it can only work if we are all following God's natural order. And if the black, this is very important for black people to understand. As long as our woman is outside the order of God, she's going to be teaching her children outside the order of God. And this is why we have so many effeminate boys, masculine girls, confused people. Is because this order is out of order, and we're teaching it from one generation to the next. And this is one of the reasons why I urge you to get the book, because it's going to show you why this black woman is single, and the behavior she's participating in, and why they are keeping her from, finding, that peace inside. Because when you follow God's natural order, you're going to have peace. You're going to have satisfaction. And, you're going to find true happiness, because when you follow God, you're always going to be happy, because you're going to be doing His work and doing things with His will. There's going to be hard times. I know there's going to be hard times. There's going to be a struggle sometimes, but He will always help you through it. And that's what God's natural order is all about. As long as you're in His order, you're always going to be all right. And I'm hoping that you learned something from this video. I'm hoping that you go out and get the book. Um, I may put out a paperback soon. If I get enough requests for a paperback, it may pop up on Create Space. I'm going to try to keep the price reasonable, because we really need to get this information out here. We really need to get people, thinking about, building a black community. The only people who can build a black community is the black man and the black woman, and that's the way God intended it. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.